the era of James Baker as foreign secretary or Secretary of State of the United States, very much respected. But that was an era when we had great people occupying the great offices of state. People like Douglas Hurd in the UK was the foreign secretary. I mean, absolutely the sort of the Whitehall Mandarin that people talk about, of old. I mean, he was a grandee. Now we've got, we're only just past Liz Truss.
Going back to the loss, the stingy feeling of the loss, witnessing the collapse of empire, right? It's not even in your living memory. So how do you get that sentiment?
Because it casts such a long shadow.
In what way? How does it manifest into?
Well, I wasn't alive during the Suez crisis, but I mean, everywhere I look in British society, I mean, in every direction, you walk down the street in any town or village, you're seeing reminders of what the British Empire was. Right. And there's, from the institutions, the architecture, the churches, the town halls. Right. That sort of image. There's something which I think this is quite telling. I mean, when I think of empire, I think of the Union Jack flag fluttering, kind of, in a ragged sort of fashion. That's, because it's fought a war and it's established civilization. Right. Whereas the US flag has to be sort of immaculate and doesn't touch the ground, because it's too good. Whereas the UK prided itself on having Gurkhas in the army and sort of interrelations with the Indians, because we respected the Indian ruling class, and there was a mutual respect. And when the king goes out and he kind of meets all the queens, goes out and meets heads of state of equal rank, there's kind of an understanding. Whereas the Americans, they always look uncomfortable everywhere they go, right? I mean, they are xenophobic. Yeah. They have no idea. They only speak English badly. Yeah. They're mostly uneducated, their leaders, whereas European leaders are mostly very educated, as the Chinese are.
And the Trump administration kind of play out. I mean, that's like the full embodiment of Trump administration. That's what they represent right now, right? Because they're saying, I don't need to care about the world. I just need to worry about myself. Let's keep our conversation in American English on stuff that we understand. Yeah,
we act with a sense of machismo and hubris, and not any sense of history or there's no sophistication there at all. I mean, I guess, but again, I'm coming from a country that feels sort of embittered that we're in reduced circumstances. Yes. So we do want to look down on the Americans, although in reality it is the other way around now. Mm-hmm.
That's a fair assessment. Yeah. You want to talk about the exodus of the wealthy from UK? How much time we have?
Yeah, if we've got time. I mean, see, that's another example really of where we are as a nation. I mean, just the fact that so many wealthy people are living in the UK under this current government is I think it's sad. Not because we're losing wealthy people, it's because of the circumstances under which they're deciding to leave, and that the UK is no longer. You can raise taxes and people won't leave as long as there's still opportunity and the country's growing, and there's kind of energy and mojo,
optimism
and kind of a vision. But these tax increases are just the straw that broke the camel's back. I think people are looking at the UK now and saying it's drifting without policy. It's in a decline spiral, as I think the United States is, and there's no clear vision. There's no new way.
And well, in terms of wealth leaving a country, like China is experiencing much the same thing.
True, but for different reasons, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're incredibly rich in China, you want to experience your wealth, you want to enjoy your wealth, and you want to do it in luxurious places around the world, because again, that money gives you a special passport and gives you a special sort of transit to separate you from, you know, the clutches of your government, whether it's Chinese government or whoever else it is. You know, that emerging elite of ultra rich people now, they have their own country, and that country you can identify it purely by the movement of private jets around the world. Right. So it's not a fixed sort of geographical thing. It's a strata in society, and it doesn't matter where you're from or what religion you are.
It's a club.
It's also very democratic in that point. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're the kind of you know, the man behind ISIS, you know, that's slotting in billions of dollars, or you're a Wall Street tycoon. You know, you could sit down and
there's diversity.
There's there's diversity, and
it's a club.
It's amazing.
But in UK's perspective, it's people are leaving not because it's because
it's decline.
Oh,
whereas I mean, the Chinese proverb has always been the emperor is the mountains are high and the emperor's far away. Well, that's not the case anymore, right? There's no part of China that can't be reached, you know, with that power, and that's been consolidated. Unless you're ultra wealthy, in which case you want to leave the country and take your wealth with you. So there's different circumstances.
So Trump is very smart in offering the gold card, where you pay $5 million and then you can get your, and then they're not going to tax you globally. That's a pretty good policy.
It's a policy. I mean, if he wants those type of people in the United States, but there's a very, very strong argument to say that those people contribute towards inequality.
For sure.
In a society, as I think it does in China and does everywhere else. So where you see a very high concentration of ultra rich people, you don't have a functioning society. And this is, I think, very fair in Europe, where the standard of living is generally much higher. Where, for example, in the UK, the lowest 10% of society has a higher life expectancy than the top 10% in American society.
Oh, okay.
For various reasons, but mostly socialised healthcare. You've basically got a sort of a flat society, but that's breaking apart now as well. So
in UK,
Europe is still mostly sort of in the middle income sections, but it's breaking apart.
Okay.
So if he wants those ultra rich, he can have them, but I think that you need to be careful what you wish for.
I think they're modeling after Singapore, in where there's certain selection on the people who gets to come in.
So I hear this Singapore is you know, as an example of how states ought to operate in some way, and I don't think that Singapore can be compared to any state on the planet other than perhaps Hong Kong, and that's
because it's too small of a region.
Because and then you can jog around it in an afternoon.
That's right. That's true. It's more organized.
Build a running track around it.
Yeah. It's more organized as a company or as a region, rather than a country.
And Singapore, people that live in Singapore don't really say very nice things about it. I mean, it's a very sterile, ultra conservative, totally corrupt, but all the corruption exists at the top. Which I suppose is where it should be. Whereas Hong Kong, even though they went through all that unpleasantness, is still a fabulous place to be. I mean, there is so much colour, not as much perhaps as there was before, you know, but it's still much more exciting, and much more diverse, much more going on in Hong Kong.
Well, it's got a hinterland of China, right? They've always been in that role of being the middleman in between China and the outside world. But if China is able, like with the coastal cities, if they can kind of leapfrog over over Hong Kong, that might change the narrative.
Well, they try. I mean, of course they have, because Hong Kong is, Hong Kong Harbour was fabulous. Is fabulous, you know. But they've built Shanghai and Beijing and all those other massive ports now are so big that the trade doesn't have to come through Hong Kong. But I'm hoping. I suppose again you have to be careful what you wish for, but there's such an opportunity for China to enter the vacuum that has been created. But it can't just tinker around, and it's got to really adopt. If it wants to go into that, fill the vacuum, then it has to fill it with meaningful reforms.